But basically, freedom of teaching and discussion, freedom to carry out research, freedom to express opinions, freedom from institutional censorship. That's not what I want to do. There we go. So let me tell you a little bit why we have support for a tenure system at Florida Tech. And actually, this is just not really even support here at Florida Tech. These are just going to be kind of pros and cons that are discussed throughout higher education. Tenure is familiar, all right? You all have heard that we're in U.S. News and World Report, correct? And Dr. McKay has already spilled this to you a little bit. We're ranked as 151 this year. We climbed 20 spots, which is really great for us. Out of the 200 or so national universities that are ranked, there's only one institution that does not have tenure, and that is Florida Tech. Now, that in itself is not necessarily a basis for getting tenure at Florida Tech, but it certainly does tell you something when you start looking at your top institutions and what is familiar to the academy, all right, to all faculty who may even consider coming to Florida Tech. One, they don't understand our contract system. And in fact, when we have positions that are open, we don't know how many faculty we don't even get to explain our contract system to, because we don't know that the fact that we don't have tenure just scares them away, or basically does not make them apply because they are looking at something very different, something very unfamiliar. If we look at doctoral research institutions, which Florida Tech is, almost 100% of your public universities have a tenure system, 99.6%, based on 2015-2016 national education statistics. Now, at the private level, it drops a little bit. It's about 80%, all right? But those include your religious affiliated schools, your highly professional schools, which really don't need a tenure system because the faculty who teach there already have buy-in into the institution. All right, so again, that familiarity is very important. This is what we're working off of. Of course, it supports academic freedom and protects professors against being fired without cause. Now, this is where we kind of get to this idea of professors, once they're in a tenured position, you can't get rid of them. That's absolutely false, okay? There is you can get fired for cause, all right? What is cause? Well, moral turpitude, insubordination, not performing to job expectation. Same things that we have here at Florida Tech. Same things that we have in our contract system, okay? Studies actually support the notion that tenured professors are more invested in the institution. They become the academic leaders of the institution. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort to become a tenured professor. And so because of this, they are going to be very much focused on staying at that particular institution, because they have now invested a lot of time and energy in it. It encourages faculty members to excel, especially in order to achieve tenure status. This tenure status is so, I won't say so, it is very challenging, all right? And in that process, you have research being done, you have teaching that is being focused upon, you have service, you have publications, and so there's a lot of energy associated with this process, associated with getting a tenure status. The stability of employment enhances attractiveness of the academic profession. And let me give you an example from when I was in graduate school. I went to graduate school at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and I got my PhD in organic chemistry. Now, UIUC, the chemistry department, they don't necessarily produce a lot of academia professors. All right, most of us go into industry, and that's really what they're geared towards in terms of their training. A lot of the students who will get their PhDs in chemistry will go into industry, into pharma, into agriculture, whatever they go into. So in order to attract someone from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign into a faculty position, something like the stability of tenure would be very attractive to them. All right, and so in order to be competitive, think of what industry pays versus what academia pays. Trust me, industry pays a whole lot more. It's a little bit more lucrative, okay? So in order to attract the best and the brightest in those areas, tenure is used for that reason. So those are some reasons to support the tenure system. And I'll tie this into how it fits into Florida Tech's plan in just a moment. Let's talk about criticisms of the tenure system. All right, this is what you're worried about, right? This is one where tenure system, I never have to work again. All right, it encourages, well, actually it's a little bit off from yours, but we understand. We think it encourages complacency after tenure status is achieved. Yes?
I think a lot of students' concern is that we don't currently have tenure right now, but we feel there are already professors who act like this.
And this is what we'll address.
So,
Hopefully if you'll, let me get through this in general and then we'll discuss it in particular. And so we have encourages complacency after tenure status is achieved. And this is actually, studies have shown that that tenured faculty actually maintain or even increase their productivity after tenure. And in fact, what many institutions have now done in order to hold professors accountable is to incorporate a post-tenure review cycle. And so again, in that same 6, 7, 8 year time frame that it takes for somebody to attain tenure status, which that is the length of time it takes to get tenure, a 6 to 8 year window, there's going to be a post-tenure review to basically evaluate the same characteristics to make sure that a professor is maintaining that degree of output that is necessary in this system. There we go. All right, some more criticisms of a tenure system. Pre-tenure faculty may focus only on what is necessary to get promoted. In the tenure systems, you hear the term publish or perish. All right, it's very important for pre-tenured faculty to get publications, to enhance their research, to bring in research dollars. And so that may be more of their focus than any of the other components of their job description. Termination of inept tenured professors becomes impossible, and I think this actually gets more to your concern there. And in actuality, I've already told you, tenured professors do get removed for cause, and the causes I've already listed. The rigidity of the structure does not allow institutions to respond to changing educational needs and financial problems. All right, it is. Once you put in something, you institutionalize something like a tenure system, you will have a little bit more rigidity in the system, but certainly we have examples of many institutions that are a little bit more fluid in terms of responding to some of these educational changes. May inhibit or corrupt the realization of academic freedom. What that really is indicating is sometimes when you have a faculty member that's going to be tenured, they may voluntarily give up aspects of their academic freedom just to make sure they're on track for that tenure, to get that tenure status. So that can be a little disruptive. And it says tenure is starting to look unaffordable. And this is something that we do have to consider because it does take a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy to get a junior or an assistant professor to a tenured associate professor status. And if they don't make it, which believe it or not, many people don't make it in that tenure track system, then that's time, energy, and money that is essentially wasted in that particular opportunity. Because if a tenure track professor does not get tenure, what happens to that tenure? What happens to that professor? Does anybody know? They usually they have to go look for another school. All right, so if you have someone on a tenure track and they are denied tenure, they usually have another year and they go and find a position at another institution. So it's granting of that tenure status that is very, very serious, and we have to take it seriously to make sure that we recruit and retain the best faculty possible. So let me talk a little bit about the process for a tenure as well. There's a pre-tenure period, I've already told you. As an assistant professor, your focus is mainly on excelling in areas of teaching, research, and service. Annual reviews will guide the process, and there may be a reappointment review. Guess what? We already do this here at Florida Tech. This is nothing different than what we already do here. We get new faculty in. These are the 3 areas of their research, of their performance, and they get annual reviews. And then, as an assistant professor, you get a contract for 3 years. Well, that means you have to be considered for reappointment after that 3-year period. So we do the same thing here. By the way, associate professor, once you get promoted here to associate professor, you get a 4-year contract. All right, so these are not year-to-year contracts. These are we already have almost a tenure-like system. All right, and that's important for a reason. So the tenure period, the standard clock is 6 to 8 years based on 5 to 7 years of effort. When you go through the promotion, this usually isn't just 1 or 2 people looking at your dossier and making a decision. It goes through multiple successive decision makers, faculty, chair, dean, provost, president, and in some cases even board of trustees at other institutions. All right, if we compare to what we do now, we have a promotional progression already to full professor. We do that too, just like we do it at tenure institutions. Our system also ensures academic freedom. We wouldn't be much of a higher education institution if we did not ensure academic freedom. Both require termination for cause or financial difficulty. And then both have expectation of long-term continued employment, even in our contract system. So the reason why we're focusing on tenure now as an institution is because of Dr. McKay's vision to propel us in the rankings to the top 100. All right? In order to be a top 100 institution, just think of the competition at the top 100. All right? In order to propel us, we have to take on characteristics of those national high research institutions, one of those being tenure. If we are going to attract qualified faculty and retain qualified faculty, we need to implement a tenure system that they understand. We also need to be able to reward them for the hard work that they do, and that is what the tenure system will do. By the way, the tenure system does not mean that every professor at Florida Tech automatically is on a tenure track. All right, there will be particular, not particular, but it will mean that you will have to put in, contribute to all 3 components of all 3 areas of research, service, and teaching. I'm sorry. So there has to be a component for each of those in order to get tenure. All right, so that was a little bit clunky. This last slide was just doing a little bit more evaluation based on Florida Tech. We already know that if we look at, for example, looking at faculty recruitment, we do not even know how many faculty, for example, have been turned away if we're recruiting for a particular position. How many faculty never even came to the door, so to speak, to knock on it and open it so we can open it and say, hey, let's explain our system to you. We don't know how many people just haven't applied. We do know that once they have applied, we have had faculty walk away because they know we don't have a tenure system. On faculty retention, we do have a little bit more information. Some of our very highly productive research faculty have gone on to tenured positions. And so that is a big loss for Florida Tech in terms of gaining that ranking in the U.S. And it also evaluates research productivity, again, for the same reason that I just responded to before, that if we're losing our highly productive research faculty, then that obviously is going to impact us, not just with research, but with rankings as well. So there's some information. Now, to get to some specifics, you had asked, you want to re-ask your question, please?
Yes, it was about, we already did, tenure scares a lot of people because it makes it leads us to the idea that professors and faculty will become lazy. But what do you say about when we say that we already have faculty and professors who act that way? Are through the grapevine, we have students consistently give them bad evaluations, yet they're still at the school. And that's before we even have a tenure system in place.
And that's a good point as well, in terms of, is a tenure system going to, well, hopefully, actually, in my opinion, the tenure system will actually give us a chance to address that.
How so?
Because now we're going to have much higher higher expectations for those faculty to reach tenure status.
But even if they're not attempting to get a tenure status, what prevents faculty that we already have, that students consistently have issues with, from not just saying, just going, I don't take the tenure track?
Oh, okay.
It
So
doesn't
that's
fix current issues.
And that we would have to look at. Remember, as I said, we have some tenure track. We would also be looking at then, if not all of the faculty are going to be in a tenure track, then we also have to consider other tracks as well. We would have one that is just possibly fully a teaching track, right? But that in itself would carry criteria that the faculty would need to meet in order to meet their promotion from assistant to associate to full. Wouldn't be a tenured status, it would still be more along the lines of a contract status.
So faculty would be held to higher standards than they currently are being held to.
They would, with this particular process, it is our chance now to really reevaluate our promotion system, our annual evaluation system, and to really put a little bit more teeth to it, so to speak, in terms of an evaluation process.
I just wanted to let everybody know the reason that we're doing theme general meetings now are so that we can hear your opinions, your concerns, and your thoughts on important things like tenure. Next meeting, we have themes brought up already. So you all can feel free to voice not only your questions, but your concerns to Dr. Paloma on tenure. Any questions you have, concerns?
Yes.
First, I'd like to thank you for presenting and giving us a better outlook at what Florida Tech envisioned on the tenure process. The thing I was concerned about is the transparency throughout that tenure process for approval. What kind of transparency would there be through that process?
Well, certainly, as that process goes through, it's similar to what we already do with our promotion system from assistant to associate to full professor. The process requires that the academic unit finds that faculty member in favor, and so it doesn't even get pushed past that level until the academic unit has given their approval. The academic unit would look at such things such as student evaluations. They would look at things such as research productivity, publications, their service record. And so once we know it gets past that department or academic unit level, it would go to even the dean's level. And a particular college might even have a council of department heads and faculty from other units that would then evaluate that faculty member. Then it would come up even to my position where I would be evaluating and talking with the dean of a particular college and say, okay, I need to know why this faculty member is being put up, why you think that they merit a raise or a promotion in the system. Then it goes to a university committee. All right, that's our current process right now. I would envision that same type of process where you are building that person up, and that person doesn't make it to the next step until everybody in the process has signed off on it or given their opinion of that faculty member.
Great, thank you.
Now, keep in mind, I really want you to know as well, with our current system, we can have faculty here who can be at the assistant professor level for any length of time. The tenure track, remember, it's the tenure track system where if you're going up for tenure and you don't have what it takes or you're denied tenure, then you're given a window of time to search for another position. The way our current contracts are, you could remain assistant professor on contract for a long time. You can also do the same thing as an associate professor on contract. And why do I bring that up? That can possibly, in some cases, bring about this complacency that we're talking about. This can also, you might have faculty, and I hate to say that we have faculty here, but you can imagine what that would do to a faculty member who, say, doesn't want to push the envelope or doesn't want knows that they're going to get bad reviews from faculty, but they don't worry about it so much because they're not going to try and push for a promotion here at Florida Tech. Again, I'm not saying that that necessarily happens here at Florida Tech. I'm just saying you can imagine with our current contract system how that could be, how that could happen. Yes.
I want to echo what he said. Thank you so much for presenting this. This is great. I was curious, what's in the service category? Is that like participation on campus?
It's participation on committees. We have university committees such as Faculty Senate. We also have undergraduate curriculum committee, graduate council. So those are recognized university committees. That takes quite a bit of time to serve on those committees. Then you might have departmental committees where, if I can use the chemistry department because that's where I came from, we had safety committees, and the safety committee had to go to each lab periodically and check for safety reviews and things of that nature. So it's at the university level, it's at the department level, and then there just might be, for example, I have faculty that I have working on program level assessment, and so that can be counted as a service component as well. Yes.
You mentioned studies, though. What studies?
The studies in these particular ones, these are studies that are done, most of them that I found are ones done by the American Association of University Professors, but there have been dissertations done. I really had to dig deep. I had to find the dissertations, but you'll find most of your information on the American Association of University Professors. All the information on there. Yes.
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you said you saw tenure as an opportunity to potentially revise your evaluation process for professors. That's correct?
Yes.
Great. So does that mean necessarily that you internally see that there is a problem with your current evaluation system?
Not at all. No, I really do think, just like any process, I think if you look at the promotion criteria that are out there, which they are published on the web, you can go and Google faculty handbook and you have access to that just as much as I do. And you can see the promotion criteria for each college. I really encourage you to do that since this is a topic that you're all concerned with. Take the time to do that. But I think what you'll find, again, it's a very rigorous system in terms of getting promoted from assistant to full professor. But is any process perfect? Of course not. But we always strive to evaluate it and look at it. I know that these particular processes were looked at recently just because we went through our regional accreditation. And so we wanted to make sure that gives us an opportunity to go, are we really accomplishing what we want to accomplish? And so the dean sat down with the associate deans and their faculty and they had discussions about it. It's very good and very healthy. That is the important piece. You may not have a perfect process, but if you're going back and evaluating and periodically updating your criteria, that's where your improvements come in and that's where things just get better and better.
So you see this more as a continuous process?
I do, yeah, a continuous improvement process, exactly.
So this is happening, kind of just a positive question, regardless of whether tenure would happen or not. You're constantly reevaluating how professors are reevaluated.
We have to. I mean, we're even looking at the student evaluation, the student course evaluation. Are we really getting what we need out of that course evaluation? How many of you think that we're getting what we need out of those course evaluations? Anybody? Okay. So we have to ask that question. And so we have the faculty who are looking at that, and it's possibly one of those that maybe I could recommend, I know Quinn, you and I are going to be meeting to talk about some things. Maybe that's something that the student can give their feedback on what types of information you think need to be fleshed out in those course evaluations.
So what would it take for a tech to officially become registered as having the tenure track? So
Well, what we have on our side is that all of these institutions have tenure tracks. So we have the advantage of looking at best practices at other institutions. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We already know what a tenure-like system is. And so we would draw off of those other institutions and draw off of our own experiences having gone through higher education ourselves. So in terms of a process, it would just be really, the process is out there, it's just adapting it to our culture here at Florida Tech.
is there, I guess what I meant is there a national standard for it?
Sure, I guess it would just be what is commonly accepted practice at the institutions. That was what I would consider the national standard. But we really want to look at best practices. We really want to look at, I had a conversation today with a visiting professor, and they were talking about, instead of using the tenure process to evaluate their faculty, they even start before a faculty gets in the tenure process, and they ask the question, will this faculty member actually be able to make it through a tenure process? Those are really important questions to ask when we're really wanting to increase our research output, we're really wanting to focus on quality teaching to the university. Those are the questions you ask before they even get in the door. Will they contribute to the university in the way that we want them to? Yes?
Does FIT have research-specific features?
We do have research track. We do.
Not like just professors that only do research?
That's right, we do. We do have a research track, and that is not unusual at other institutions as well, where research is a focus. So you can envision that we have this tenure track system where you have the three components of teaching, research, and service. Then we have our research-only professors, and they are just purely in the laboratory. We would have teachers then on the other side who would be just focused on teaching. And those are not only the good they're strong teachers in the classroom, but we're looking for that scholarship as well. Maybe they want to incorporate some innovative technology in the classroom, or maybe they want to try a flipped classroom structure, or they're going to try and come up with some other innovative way to teach in the classroom. Those are the types of things that we want to reward in this process.
So you said the first 5 to 7 years is like when you spin out a lot of research, right? Like a lot of publications?
You hope so. You would hope so.
The way I feel like that is if you're spinning out so much research, maybe you're not focusing on the teaching aspect of it. So that will, go down.
It's a very valid point, which is why we have to balance and make sure that the metrics for teaching are just as high as the metrics for research. If you're only going to do research, my argument would be then you're a research faculty, right? If that's going to be your only focus. So there has to be a balance between teaching and research and service if that's how we're going to define our tenure track faculty. Okay, that's a very valid point though. Yes?
Do you know how many years it would take before tenure is fully implemented?
I would say if I were Dr. McKay right now, he would say he would like to have it implemented by next fall, but we have to obviously have conversations about this. You have to realize we're just having conversations at this point. We still have a lot of talking to do with the faculty. We have a lot of talking to do with the deans. This is a topic, the Faculty Senate have created an ad hoc committee to review this and start looking at this process. We have already discussed it at the dean's level, so there's a lot. You just don't jump into this without a lot of discussion, which is what we're doing here. So this is great. Yes?
You may have already mentioned it, but is there research that shows that school with tenured faculty also produce students with better careers after they graduate and whatnot? Is there research on that?
I haven't looked at that in particular. I haven't necessarily looked at that in particular.
Because it seems to me like we're number 150 roughly, but it seems that basically this argument is to just jump us to say on a piece of paper, say we're top 100 and whatever happens to the students is kind of negligent and who cares?
Well, but I would challenge you to look at those top 100 institutions and tell me whether you think that the faculty or the students who graduate from those institutions don't really have good opportunities that are laid out before them. I mean, these are some very nationally acclaimed institutions or universities, and so just by the nature of it kind of all works together. I hope you can see that. It's not just research we're emphasizing here. Again, we're emphasizing the teaching as well. That's what tenure is about. It's not just about research, it's about teaching. And so as you are increasing in one, you're also increasing in the other in that aspect. And so that's going to benefit the students overall. But you already do a lot of research, especially those in the science and engineering. You have a capstone project, you have a senior design project, those in science. You do a research project at the end of your degree program, and you can envision that only getting better, the quality of that getting better, stronger, the better opportunities, more opportunities as we increase our ranking, we increase our reputation, we increase our teaching and our research productivity. So I don't know if that really answers your concern. Okay. Yes.
You said at the beginning of the tenure track, it takes a lot of research to get through. And I'm not opposed to professors doing research, but when I was first, applying to schools and I was looking at Florida Tech, one of the things that was explained to me that, well, the quantity of research that our school puts out is not as high as some of the other colleges in our standing. The quality is as high or higher than most of those. And that was one of the things that, because Florida Tech is a very unique school, and that's one of the things that makes it so unique. Well, the quantity of research is not that high, but the quality is much higher than the quantity. So how would you keep that uniqueness and make sure that they're trying to push out research, but make sure that the same quality of research is being maintained? Because to me, the quality of the research being put out and of the knowledge being brought into the school from the school is a lot more important than the quantity that we're pushing out and getting the name out there.
Right, and quantity is a byproduct of the quality, in my opinion. If we want to increase the quality of research here, then we need to attract the best faculty that we can. And so by attracting the best faculty that we can, we not only increase the quality, we increase the quantity. If I said quantity before, that was research productivity is defined as quality of the research as well as the quantity of the research. If you can envision attracting more faculty because we have a tenure system that they are familiar with, that they know that they can thrive in, it's going to increase their output, whether it's teaching or research, both the quality and the quantity will go up simultaneously. It should go up.
Well, is there going to be a safeguard to make sure that it does?
Well, of course.
It should. A lot of things should happen.
Sure. And you're right. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? We obviously have to put those in, and that's our advantage. We can look at best practices across the nation and see what other institutions are doing to make sure we're safeguarding and we're really protecting those characteristics that are unique to Florida Tech and that we really want to maintain. Yeah.
So how does the past contributions of a professor or faculty contribute, like past experience contribute towards the tenure track?
You know what,
if someone has worked here for like 10 years and if someone joins this fall, how do they compare with the tenure track? Like, do they start from scratch?
I wish I could answer that. That's something I have to work out with the faculty. It's just too premature for me to answer that question for you. But it is obviously something we have to consider, right? And we have all answers ranging from, no one gets tenure off the bat. There has to be some vetting process. down to answers of, yes, those who have contributed in areas, all three should be grandfathered in, but, you know, the answer may be somewhere in between, to be honest with you. I think someone else had their hand.
I just don't want to cut it short, but let's just take 2 more questions.
Okay, very good, thank you. Go ahead.
You mentioned when you're talking about the drawbacks of the tenure evaluation process, that it could be more costly. Would that include in situation?
No. We really, if you look at, and that's a really good valid point too. You guys zero in on those things that are really important. I really don't see that as being, I think of it more as it's a lot of time and energy associated with the department itself in terms of grooming this person and making sure that they reach a certain tenure status. I do not seeing it very negatively impacting the financial aspects of the years. One more question? Yes.
As this goes forward through the research process and then the possible implementation of the tenure system, is there a plan to keep the students updated on the process of this initiative?
I certainly can. I won't say that there's a written strategic plan for this, but I would be more than happy to come in front of the student government anytime you want to invite me and give periodic updates of the progress. I'm very happy to do that. But yes, that's something that we do. Again, we need to have more detailed discussion with the faculty themselves, and we can let you know what the progress is as we move on. I'd be happy to do that. All right, wow.
Based on what you're all input in and what you think is important to talk about. And also, I urge you all to do research on the tenure topic to figure out how this is going to impact your research opportunities on campus as well as your education from day to day. And if you have any concerns, feel free to forward them to Dr. Bullock or the Student Government Association.
Thank you.
It's almost over. We're not done quite yet. So not yet, guys.
We're going to go ahead and have our Chief Justice step up and just talk to you guys briefly.
Hey, Doctor. I've never used DocCam before.
Okay, press the DocCam button. Guys, I'm really sorry. Technology doesn't like me.
It's not the end of the world. We can't get it. I can just read off. Yeah, there'll be a press release.
So you're all going to see this document later. We just can't get this to work right now.
Yeah, there'll be a press release where everything will be public after tonight. So as your Chief Justice, it's my responsibility to inform you guys of the result of the impeachment hearing. Daniela came forward and explained to you all that we have decided to remove him from office. Based on 3 conferred charges, there were 7 charges that were submitted to the justices from the Senate. And so I'll also read off to you guys what those were and whether those charges were dismissed or conferred. So the first charge was the violation of the student handbook, infraction of policy concerning distribution and supervision of alcohol consumption to a person under 21 years of age. That was dismissed as it does not actually warrant impeachment as per the Constitution. The second charge is that of gross negligence in failure to promote full cooperation between students. That charge was conferred. The third charge was another charge of gross negligence in failure to provide training and experience in responsible leadership and community involvement. That charge was also conferred. The fourth charge, there's 6 in gross negligence, I'm going to keep saying it, was in failure to promote student physical, social, and cultural welfare. That charge was also conferred. The following 2 charges Also gross negligence, both abuse of presidential powers via complaint from Erica Richardson and abuse of presidential powers with regards to the tenure survey were both dismissed as they were redundant. We felt that they weren't separate, they weren't to be looked at separate from the previous 3 charges. And the last was a violation of the SAFC document for the same reason that the first charge was dismissed. We didn't actually view that as a warrant, as a charge that warrants impeachment as per the Constitution. I have an excerpt from the Constitution that lays out what charges are valid for impeachment, which would have been cool to show you guys so you can understand the decision process there, why we outright dismissed those charges that we did. And then the decision to impeach Daniel was made based on the charges that were in fact conferred. So the other thing, just so you guys as the student body have an understanding of what happens moving forward, now that there is a vacancy for the offices of the presidency, I have another excerpt from the Constitution right here that reads, if the office of the president shall become vacant, the vice president shall assume the office of the president. That would be Becca. And then if the office of the vice president or treasurer shall become vacant, Becca moving to the presidency makes the vice presidency now vacant. The president, now Becca, shall appoint with approval of 2/3 vote of the student senate. Thank you guys for your time. Have a good evening.
Let's go ahead and advisor's report.
I have nothing to report.
Any announcements? Let's start over here. All right. Myra.
Guys, again, if you could please volunteer for Boo at the Zoo. We desperately need volunteers. So we need like 21 people every night, and we have like 5. So we really need your guys' support. It's a really fun way to get volunteer hours. You're actors in a haunted house. You get to scare little children, make them cry. We feed you, we take you there, we bring you back. You have chances of winning gift cards, $25 and $50. So like it doesn't get better than this. So please help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. Moving this way, this way. Bobby.
Hi again. All the first video was canceled this week.
This way, this way, this way. Yes.
AFLJ will be having a free national event next week Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here. So all of you are welcome to come.
Continuing. Yes.
Alright, so this Saturday, Society of Professional Engineers is hosting like mock interviews. Saturday morning, there was an email sent out yesterday. If you guys are interested, just put your name and the hour that you want to interview. It takes 30 minutes, each interview. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other last minute announcements?
In case you all didn't realize, this meeting has been recorded, and all meetings in the future are going to be recorded by FITV and by us. So you can, it's going to be live streamed on the FITV channel. That's not in attendance to this meeting. You can't say you tuned in online. And yeah, so just so y'all know, leave hi to Thomas.
Great. You all good? Have a good evening. Thank you.